What is up, fellow bench warmers? Welcome to your Daily Fantasy Quickie Special Edition. What's up, guys? Hi, Komish. How are you?
Hello.
Special Daily Fantasy Quickie today because that's the first quickie that we will have a guest, and our guest won't, extend any. I won't prolong it any longer. I'll introduce the guest, of course, fantasy analyst of hoopball.com, Mr. Erik Ong. Erik, how are you?
Hello, guys. Thank you for inviting me on your show. I'm doing well, thanks.
How's the fantasy teams doing so far?
Terribly. So, I think I'm only... I only have one league left where I have a chance to win, which is terrible considering I've been playing so many leagues. I think I'm in a dozen leagues this year, so I'm only one league that I have a chance to win money. But it's the biggest buy-in league. It was like I think $150 buy-in. So if I win this, I'm still in
pretty
the black for the season.
Pretty much covered if you win it.
So,
what happened? Is it the injuries?
Injuries, yes, I can blame some of that. And a lot of it was okay. I tell myself every season that I should be more patient at the start of the season. That's kind of the advice I generally give also. Because in the past, as I've been playing this game for the many, many years that I've been playing it, I'm actually a trigger-happy manager. In the first 2 weeks, I sometimes blow through a third of my allotted moves in the first 2 weeks of the season, hurriedly picking up the best early performers, and I tend to regret it. So I think I stayed too patient too long with the wrong guys.
Like
who? Happened.
Like who? Early in the season, there were a lot of players who were really underperforming and caused panic to a lot of managers.
Yeah. Like who? I hung on to Bojan Bogdanovic of Utah too long. In some leagues, I think I held on to Kelly Oubre too long. I mean, not necessarily drop him, but I had, low ball trade offers for him. And I think some of them, in hindsight, I should have taken already. Because I was just... because I convinced myself pre-draft that Kelly Oubre would be a top
stud.
50.
Yeah,
a top 50 guy. Yeah, and I go, okay, he's just off to a slow start. I'm not going to trade him for a top 100 guy. I'm going to, but it took him so long to get, and during the course of the early season, I suffered too many, in head-to-head, right? So I suffered too many 2-7 losses, 3-6 losses.
Lopsided losses.
Yeah. And
is it
in injuries also, because I had so many leagues. I had 3 leagues where I invested in Karl Anthony Towns, and he missed so much time, and he's critical. Like, for example, now that I have him back in one of the leagues that I kept him or traded for him in this particular case, he's such a swing player that I'm beating my opponents 7-2, 6-3. But without him, you're losing 2-7 or 3-6.
Yeah.
So there. But on the one league where I'm winning, it's very competitive because the number 2 guy who is who I'm trying to keep away from the top spot is Brewski. So there's a little bit of pride. So by the way, for your listeners who don't know Brewski, he's Aaron Brewski, and he's the founder and original the owner of Hoopball.
Yeah.
You might have known him from his time at when he used to write for Roto World, and
Yeah.
he's been a well-known fantasy expert. And I've been playing against him in so many leagues for so many years. And in this particular league that we've been playing for together for like maybe 5 or 6 years now, he's like won 4 of them, 5 of them. So this is my
Oh.
first chance to quote
To beat
unquote
him.
kick his butt. There.
But you're staying
Eric,
away from him
yeah.
in the playoffs.
But yeah, for context, no, it's a Roto league, so
Ah,
Okay,
I'm
okay,
currently
okay.
fifth. So I'm 15 points ahead of him right now. So there. So I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
need to I just need to hope that he has more injuries than I do.
But Eric, is it like the COVID situation this year changed your strategy a little bit, or did you just not mind it for the when you entered the season this year, or was it at the back of your mind and did you make some changes with how you played this season?
Mm, I think I actually should have changed the way I played, and I didn't react to it enough.
Okay.
So the answer is no, it didn't change the way I played, and I think I should have tweaked the way I played. So much so that because I didn't change the way I played, it caused my poor performance in so many leagues. Okay,
Mm.
Okay.
so that's what happened there. Okay, for context, I play with guys who don't have who are in leagues that don't have IL spots. So
Mhm.
it's extra,
Challenging.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's extra challenging. So uh, for the longest time, I mean pre-COVID, I was fine with those leagues. But
Yeah.
this year it was extra challenging. I mean
Yeah.
since we're using that term. Um, and I think I should have been more liberal with guys that I would drop. Or, okay, another disadvantage of playing in so many leagues is that I cannot be as active as I'd like to be in the trade market because,
Yeah.
playing in a dozen leagues, I can't reach out to, 4 or 5 managers per
Yeah.
league, with trade offers. I won't have time for work or any other
Yep.
kind of a
Yep.
life,
I
right? So
agree. I agree.
if for example I was just playing in 3 leagues, then yeah, sure, I could exert better effort and um, wheel and deal and whatever. But because of my habit or pattern of playing in so many leagues, I tend to be more passive as a manager in the sense that I don't go out of my way to send offers.
Uh-huh.
Back in the day, I used to. I'm actually somebody who is very open to trading because I'm the type of guy who's never satisfied with my team because it can always get better. You can
Yep.
always improve.
Yeah.
And trading, as we know, is one of the ways to improve your team.
Yep.
So I like it as a mechanism for improving my team. It's just that I simply do not have the time to be able to do that for all my leagues.
And I remember when you joined us earlier in the season, you mentioned you were trying to limit your leagues to 5 or 6, I think, or
Yeah,
8
we
at the
saw how
most.
that we saw how that
Well,
um
I was kind of surprised it went up to 12 already. But
yeah, I know because there are some leagues that I just can't say no to because um I I don't know. I need help. I just like okay. The fault there is I enjoy drafting first of all.
actually,
So every
actually, a
time
lot of
another if I,
managers do enjoy the
yeah,
drafting part. That if they don't get a
then they
good
forget about
player, the good team, they'll join another league to try and get a better team.
okay, there you go. So part of me, for example, I join a league. I'm not so happy with my draft position or the players I drafted. I think I could improve on the draft, for example. So I want not necessarily a reroll, but try again in a different league, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. Are there any players that surprised you this year?
A lot, actually.
Maybe your top
There,
three players that really surprised you to didn't expect them to maybe in a good way or in a bad way as well. Surprise you in a good way, in a bad way.
huh. Okay, I would say, well, off the top, Kelly Oubre, obviously, I have to. I didn't think he would
Yeah.
be that bad. All
He's
right.
top 75 now in
Um,
nine cats, so at least it's not as bad.
yes, yes, but if you, that's just now, and
Yeah,
because
but
of
for
the
the rest of the season, yeah.
correct. Um, uh, Chris
How about
Boucher,
yeah?
I was wrong. I didn't think he would. Well, I was both right and wrong because in the sense that I'm wrong every so often because he's only good every so often. um,
Yeah.
my impression on Chris initially was that he wasn't gonna be a breakout player, and he
Mm-hmm.
broke out, and he does break out actually once or twice a week. That's a problem. So I'm right 50% of the time in that sense.
Let's stay for a bit there with Chris Boucher. Is he
Sure.
does play really well every now and then, but a lot of managers are quite frustrated with him. Uh, and the bad times, they feel like they need to drop him. They want to drop him already. Do you think it would be wise for managers to drop him on those bad days?
Mm,
Or I mean, they are frustrated with Nick Nurse, I guess, more than Chris Boucher. But for the whole season, he's been dropped, added, and it's been a controversial player in fantasy. So, do you think those managers that dropped him made a good decision, or is it really wrong to drop him at any time?
okay. Uh, I'll break my answer into two parts. In Roto, yes, it's bad to drop him because you're
Yeah,
after his averages over the course of the season anyway, and what you get is what you get, and you have to look at what he ends up contributing in terms of totals
Yeah,
at the end of the season anyway. So the good games offset the bad games in such a way that it doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Um, in head to head, I would answer that based on depth. For example, I wouldn't criticize someone for dropping him in a standard 12 teamer,
Mm-hmm.
okay, during those bad weeks.
mm-hmm.
Because based on weekly matchups, it's key to have consistent guys because you want it's um Boucher having a bad game is almost like having him injured. That's how bad he plays. It's like that's
Or
how it's like when his bad game is worse than an FA than a free agent's average game,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, right?
okay,
So in that sense, let's say the Raptors played 3 games that week. He had 2 bad games. He already screwed your team. So
Mm-hmm.
if the impact that he was providing the fantasy team was detrimental, I would have dropped him in 12 team. I would have. So yeah, my answer is okay. But the deeper the league, the more patient I'd be with high upside players because his good games, one good game by Boucher is better than 2 good games of a free agent. It's always there to help you make your decision when it comes to dropping a player who you're have a question mark on. Ask yourself, is this good game going to be much better? Always compared to the average free agent in your league. Look at who are your options are, or even if you want to do a calculation, get the median of what their stats are and what average stats they're gonna do. Or if you're replacing him, let's say with a center, get an average of the stats that the average center will provide. So odds are the average center won't block as much, for example, or
Yeah.
won't have as good a free throw percentage as him at less attempts. So in that sense, if that was the situation at the time, I'd hold.
Mm-hmm.
But if I saw someone who is, let's say somebody, dropped somebody who was good or whatever, or somebody offered me a trade, yeah, I'd let go of him because I personally, I don't like guys like that who have
Okay.
a high variance
Yeah.
production. I'd rather have somebody who's not.
Consistent.
I mean, somebody who you'll never be wowed with, but will win a league for you is like Tobias Harris. Okay, when
Yeah.
you have to redefine fantasy stud and put his picture there
Yeah.
because he's not, you know, he's just solid and he does
Yeah.
everything and he does it well and he hardly gets injured.
He's just not
I take
Consistent.
Tobias Harris over.
he's just not
Sexy
a
name.
sexy
He's
name
not a
or
sexy
a
Exactly.
exciting pick.
And if there's one message, yeah, it's a bit too early for messages, but if there's one thing I could impart to your listeners, is to don't get too hung up on sexy names. Go for the unsexy. I mean, it's a
Yes.
game about numbers and look at the numbers,
Yeah.
which is a lesson that I'm gonna probably post here in front of my wall so that it's in my face because I don't follow it. I mean, I'm also don't. I mean, I have for a game that's supposed to be rational, logical, and all about the numbers. I'm a very emotional.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah. And
very emotional manager.
a lot of managers
So
are as well.
yes, yes, yes. So and that's one advice I would give back in the day when I had time to devote when I had more time to devote to my leagues is be very observant. Listen, well, nowadays things have evolved, especially in our leagues here in the Philippines. Almost every league has its own group chat in Facebook, right? Each
Yeah.
league has its
Yes.
own. So pay very if you had the time, which a lot of people don't also, but pay attention to the chatter so you will because people get to be more vocal nowadays in the new age of fantasy. Because back in the old days, there were no group chats for leagues that
Yeah.
were popular. I mean, it's just within the platform. But because of the evolution of the Facebook group chat per league, it's more vocal. People get to express themselves more, and that's extra information. So somebody would say, "Oh my God, Moses Brown had such a terrible game. I don't want him anymore. Should I drop?" I mean, of course, he won't ask in that league chat if he should drop him because the sharks would smell blood in the water. But the comments the comments there are how guys react to trash talk because you love to trash talk other
Other
managers,
managers.
players, and so on and so forth. Yeah, yeah. So like
So
that's extra information that people should use nowadays in the modern fantasy that we play.
talking about sexy names, Eric, like this year, like the first round picks have not really panned out, right? In general. So you could say like Trey Young. I mean, since we're doing a quickie, today Trey Young, Jason Tatum, Zion, these guys played really well. What's your take on Trey Young? Like, did he deserve the first round pick? Well, he was a first
Well,
round pick a lot
by
of
the
people.
numbers, obviously not. And I think, but where the people wrong? So
Yes.
the point is, uh, no, he's not lived up to it clearly. But you
Yeah.
have to look back at the time when people valued him as somebody who would improve to the point that he's going to produce to
First
first
round.
round value because you're making your assessment on a results based qualification.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I were to use the analogy of poker, just because the guy drew out on you, that doesn't mean your decision to make that play was necessarily wrong, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think he was worth the risk as a late first round pick. Late, okay? Somewhere in
Mm-hmm.
the top 11, 12 is where I would have placed Trey Young.
Yeah.
Okay? But the
Okay.
only hot name in the I think I mentioned this the last time I was with you that Luca is not a top 3 pick. And that was the one that was outright wrong because he was not going to be top 3 value and he didn't produce even
Yeah.
top 10, top 12 value, right? So
Yeah.
Yes.
that's the biggest example of sexy name that I can
But
sexy player, right? So he's handsome too, but even then, as good looking as the guy is, okay, now you guys are blushing. All right, I meant as a joke that you guys are blushing. You're the guy. You're the ones who are turned on. So,
Yeah.
but my point is, he's not there yet.
Yeah.
Will he be there? I probably I think he will. I think he will. I think it's just 1 or 2 seasons too soon.
Luca, are you
Okay?
talking about Luca?
Yeah, Luca, for example, he's
Yeah.
uh, uh, Tatum. Like, can Tatum produce first round value? Yeah, I think he was similar to Trey. He was
Yep.
worth an 11 or 12 pick, but people were
How about
grabbing
Zion?
him. Okay,
Yeah.
Zion is probably going to be the next player to average 40 points per game in a season, maybe next season or 2 seasons from now, at the rate that he's scoring.
Okay.
Um, he's crazy good, and I think that okay, everybody, it's like it's for example like the stock market, that you are investing based on expected value or
Yeah.
expected growth.
Yeah.
So people have been valuing him on an on production that he will produce several seasons ahead of his development. So when he
Yes.
was a rookie, people were so excited and they were drafting him at so and so spot, but he's only producing that level now. So
Mm.
okay, so but now I think then people got disappointed. So his price went down, but he's playing well again, and so his
Mm.
price is gonna go up. Um, but I think, all right, I think even though I said that he's gonna be a 40 PPG player at some point in his career, uh, until he addresses his free throw, he's just gonna be a points league type of guy. In the category format, competitive formats, he's still gonna sting you too much in free throw. Unless it's head to head and you're committed to punt free throw, he's not very attractive. Like I mean, one thing I realized over the last 2 seasons, I'm really a better roto player than I am a head to head player. Um,
But I think head to
but
head has a lot of luck in it, especially this year,
yes,
right?
well,
Yes.
So
because
That's true.
okay, the reason I agree with that, and to explain it to your listeners, is because results are looked at within a smaller sample size week by week.
yeah.
Mm.
So all it takes is 1 or 2 bad games, and it swings the result, either positively or negatively,
Yeah.
for your team. So it makes it look like luck based in that sense, because you can have a bad week. But
Yeah.
overall, and I think that's it's not good to look at it that way. You have to look at how many games a player plays per
Mm-hmm.
season, what he averages, as far as production per game goes, and you will see how good the player he will be in head to head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you switch either per game or totals,
Yeah.
we'll go back to my guy Tobias Harris. It's really hard to beat him, as far as where he was drafted. He was odds are drafted
Fifth
top.
round.
I mean, yeah, right.
Fourth or
So
fifth? Yeah.
something like that, and that's because guys didn't have a choice anymore. They felt like they were settling for him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, they go, oh God, there's no one left. Okay, fine, to buy. I mean, nobody was actually ever excited to be picking Tobias
Yep.
Tobias
Harris,
Harris. Yes.
right? I mean, let's be
He
honest. But
he's probably in the same area with DeRozan, who's not
yeah,
being picked too high as well because he's boring. His game is boring. It's not fun to watch. It's not exciting
yeah,
really.
one group chat, and this is a Filipino expression. So to your foreign listeners, yeah, you'll have to ask a Filipino what it means. But we call DeRozan plain rice. So he's plain rice. So he's flavorless, but very nourishing and important for your
Yeah.
basic food group.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about injuries. So there are a lot of injuries this year. What's your take on these players? Shea, is he a drop already? Shea Gilgeous Alexander.
if you have the injury slot to save him, sure, save him. But if we're talking in leagues that don't, I've seen it. Okay, in all my leagues that don't have an IL spot, he's already on the wire
Mm-hmm.
weeks ago.
Okay.
So there's no point in holding on to him then,
Yeah.
because it's a bit late to ask that question now. I'm sorry, because teams are jockeying for those top 8 spots
Yep,
in playoffs
yep.
if we're talking head to head.
Yep.
And if you were holding on to him and you were competing for that top 8 spot, you were already doing it wrong. So he should have been a drop
Yeah.
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
So deciding to drop him now is it's already becoming borderline.
It's too late. A
Iffy.
little too late.
Yeah. Okay. It also, again, when it comes to these drop questions, it's always relative to your position in the standings.
Yeah.
I might, if I was, top seed and already guaranteed a playoff spot by now, I probably would have the luxury of holding, and I'd probably recommend the same for anyone in that position. Hold them, sure. But if
Yeah.
you're 9th, 10th, yeah, drop him. Jeez, drop. I mean, I've seen LeBron dropped. I mean, the biggest
Big names.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. All of these guys were dropped.
But these players, like because LeBron's another player who let's say you're already in the playoffs, right? You made the playoffs. LeBron's there in your team. Is there really some hope that he'll still give you some good value later on, or because that's the big? He is a top 15 player, top 20 maybe.
Well, when he comes back, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but
okay.
do you think that given the Lakers are, they'll rush him back, or they might rest him a lot of games, and is it worth it to hold on to him even if they're gonna probably be resting him a lot of games?
I'm not sure they're gonna rest him a lot of games. I think that would have been the scenario if the Lakers were like in a top 2, top 3 position, but they aren't. They aren't. And the moment that he's healthy enough to play off the top, he's gonna play. And the seeding that the Lakers will be chasing will matter. When it is mathematically impossible for them to improve their seed, or for them not to be at risk to fall to a lower, riskier seed, then that's the time that he'd be quote unquote, probably rested by the team. But it will be a priority for the team and LeBron to improve the seeding of the Lakers going in, because the West is such a dangerous conference. You don't know. It's very easily to get upset. Just look what happened to them. All it took was an injury to AD, then an injury to LeBron. They got screwed, and they were losing so many games.
Yeah.
So that's one thing since we're talking about playoffs and strategy, fantasy playoffs, don't be shy to drop guys. Okay, every season I have
even at that caliber. I think the attachment is always there. Like, this is a top guy for me.
He's my first round pick.
He's my first round pick. Should I really drop it? I think it's the same thing for Shea, who was probably picked late second round, early third. People are so attached that this is my second round pick.
I mean, in my 16-team league where I had no IL, where there's no IL, AD was dropped.
Oh.
Anthony Davis was dropped.
Early, or
I mean,
right when he got injured.
Okay, when the news came out, when the prognosis came out that it was 6 weeks, potentially, when the length of time was clear, and the guy realized that he was dropped. And the thing is, AD was owned by somebody who was like in the 9th position in the standings, and games were okay. It's easy to say hold on to AD because he matters, but then you already have one dead slot that you're nursing, right?
Yeah.
So we're not taking into account the other random missed games that Domantas Sabonis will miss, or Miles Turner, or whoever the hell Malcolm Brogdon would miss, right? Right.
Yeah.
So those unexpected missed games suddenly swing the week in your opponent's favor. Then just when you thought that you were preserving a 4-5 loss and were comfortable with it, it suddenly blew up and you lost 2-7, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
those miscalculations are some, and to be honest, and that happens to me. I miscalculated certain weeks, and to be fair, also, I, you know, um, okay, another reminder, notice of why it's so bad. So sometimes I just click on start active players or start all
Yeah.
for the week.
Yeah.
Okay, but there are times, like there are days on heavy days, that you have more active players than slots.
Yep.
And there are times that Yahoo, for example, will sit a better player than
Yeah.
somebody that, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there are times that um, I inadvertently played an inferior player.
Yeah.
Then, if I paid attention or looked through
That's
the
annoying
days.
actually. That happens.
Okay, and that's a lesson to everyone. If you're serious about the game, you have to look at every day and who's seated, who's rostered, who's active every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Go. How
more
about
guys, more questions.
how
Yeah.
about a player like James Harden, for example? James Harden, you mentioned that the Lakers probably won't rest LeBron James, right? James Harden is injured. It doesn't seem serious, or at least not as long as LeBron James. But Brooklyn, for example, is right there at the top, maybe close to being the first or at least the number two seed in the East. Would that be a concern for managers who own Harden, who is now injured, and the team is so stacked that they can afford to rest him some games? I guess in essence, the question is, when it comes to playoff strategies, is resting a real concern for managers? Because it's been a concern throughout the season. Like, oh, this player might rest,
Yeah,
but
we've
is
been
it really
getting a lot of
a
been
big
getting a lot
concern when
about
it comes
rest,
to fantasy playoffs?
rest and shutdown.
Okay, let's separate those two questions since you added. So let's separate rest versus shutdown. When you say
Yeah.
rest, odds are it happens on one of the ends of a back-to-back, and that's to optimize rest. Or let's say that for people to visualize it in their heads, when a team of a certain player has 4 games in a week, and you expect them to be seated or rested, you should expect only 3 games to be played by that player, for example, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be a big deal. I mean, it's just thinking about it in the same context that we pursued or continued with the fantasy season in a time of COVID. There's
Mm-hmm.
risks, and it's a risk that applies to everyone anyway. So,
Yeah.
okay, my point is, yes, it's a problem, but it's Harden. What are you gonna do otherwise, other than keep him? You
Yeah.
have no other choice. But okay, one Harden game is like two or three, two or three Tyler Hero games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe
it's
three.
not.
Tyler Hero,
It's not.
maybe three.
All right. You get. It's just not. Okay, these guys are irreplaceable. It's
Yeah.
not like you can. It we're past the trade deadline. These are questions that managers should have asked themselves before before the trade deadline, and exited his position then.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, hold. I mean, it. But then this thinking, or this line of questioning uh, becomes different as the value of the player goes down,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, would you
So
hold a John Wall, for example, or a good example of somebody who's going to be gone long is like Victor Oladipo, right?
yeah.
He's going to be gone long. Is he worth a hold? I'd say no. He's going to be gone, what, 10 games or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't hold on to Depot, but I'd hold on to Harden. That's
Yeah.
um.
Yeah.
So
The
it it,
Harden,
it,
I
it
think it's definitely a hold. It's just that early on, I think maybe it's something that listeners could especially those that have been already eliminated, that they can bring into the next season we're in. Is rest really a big deal when it comes to setting your team into the playoffs, or is it just something that we overanalyze, that these players may rest, these players may rest? Like
Yeah, just my
yeah,
point is, the better the player, even if he plays 3 games, they're okay.
it's still a
Let's say
solid contribution.
yes. Two games of Stephen Curry is better than 4 games of a top 150 guy,
Yeah,
right? So because he produces double, triple, the production of a top 150 guard,
yeah,
for example.
yeah.
So yeah. So if he rests, so what? Now going back to your other that you asked, shutdown. Well, that was a big deal. Yes, that's something you should be concerned about, because like in the experts league with the 30 deep that I'm in, it was punishing for me because my only center that was playable at the time that I was in the playoffs was Al Horford. He was shut
Mm,
down
yeah,
and I got screwed. So after Al Horford, next in line for me was Aaron Baines, and the gap
yeah,
was so far. I
yeah,
lost I fell off a cliff. The value of my center suddenly fell off a cliff, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and that cost me, for
yeah.
example. So shutdown is a more serious issue,
Concern.
and you should devote an entire episode specifically to the guys that you know think could be shut down, and highlight them.
Yeah,
But
it's
again,
actually hard as well to predict who would be shut down for the I mean, who which player would be shut down later on, or
well,
for the rest of the
no, the way to
season,
do
right?
that is you look at the standings.
Yeah, yeah,
So you look at the teams that are out of contention, that they have the biggest reasons to rest their older players, for
yeah,
example, and not necessarily just their stars, even players, and it's a bit more clerical work involved in research. You have to look at guys, for example, who are solid role players but could be on expiring contracts that they want to preserve because they want to offload it in the off season for trades. Because if you look at it now, uh, weirdly enough, the buyout impact was bigger than the trade
trade. Yeah,
impact,
Yeah.
right? Because of Drummond, fine, not Aldridge, not so much. But even if you look at Blake Griffin, who was trash already, is suddenly useful every so often. But I
yeah,
still wouldn't trust him.
Every game.
I
Yeah.
mean, but you can see the impact of him. Let's say in a deep league, I wouldn't be shy to have picked up Blake Griffin in an 18 team, where he was just lying on the wire, because his impact now is okay.
yeah. Uh, let's go to the the other end of things, like players who are hot now and would probably be game changers. I'm not sure if that's the right term. Game changers later on in fantasy playoffs. Moses Brown, Pokusevski, those players you feel are they the must own types, or which of these players are must own? Let's go from Moses Brown, Pokusevski, and Kevin Porter Jr. Among these players, who do you think would be the biggest game changer uh, as the season ends for you?
Out of those 3 names,
Yeah.
Kevin Porter Jr. off the top. Obviously, he's been in the league longer. We've already seen what he's been able to do, and this is his official breakout season.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that he had nice potential back in Cleveland. It's just that he became a head case and they had to let him go. But he's a great player. You can see that he's so talented and that he can do everything.
Yeah.
Actually, he's a solid defender. He's got good playmaking skills that weren't even there. Okay, people were so hot, were so excited in the first 2 months of the season with Darius Garland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, I picked up Darius Garland. I drafted him in the last
Set
pick.
eight, 10th
Oh,
round.
he's so good, so good. Wow, wow, wow. But you know what, people? The Cavs didn't even want to play him because they had Kevin Porter Jr. last year. That's how good Kevin Porter Jr. is. All right. So, yeah, he's off the top, such a swing guy because he can do everything. Moses Brown. All right. He's a popular.
Very popular player right now.
But a lot of
That
managers
everyone
are
is asking.
frustrated.
All right. Will he be good? Yes. Will he be consistent? No. If you want consistency, drop him. That's what I'm gonna say.
if
Right?
if you have a choice, Moses Brown or maybe a Nerlens Noel at this point.
Nerlens Noel. Nerlens Noel. Okay, again, if I needed
Really?
rebounds, if yeah, no,
Okay.
look at the numbers. Usually, do you own a top shot of Moses Brown or something? Why you're so excited? All right, why are you so shocked? Think
No,
about
because
it.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Again, people are too dissuaded when a player doesn't score. Just
Yes.
look at the ranking.
Yeah.
I hate it when I try to talk or try to use value rankings in trade discussions. Then somebody comes back at me. Na, he go, I don't look at rankings or I have my own rankings. I go, what the hell? Then what is our basis for discussing trades? Right? So
Yeah.
if you just look at the numbers, really, Nerlens Noel is the better player. Nerlens Noel does not have any competition, and
Yeah.
but Moses Brown actually does have competition now
Yeah.
at center. And Moses Brown, um, if I can tell you, and you'd probably agree that Nerlens Noel has consistently been unimpressive, right?
Yes. Yes. And maybe
Moses Brown has
that's where the some of the questions come from. There
I
are
think
really a lot of games where Nerlens Noel was like, "What? This is Nerlens Noel already?" I mean, people expect a lot more, I guess, from
but I
Nerlens
think
Noel.
Derek and I actually are one of the biggest fans of Nerlens Noel. We have talked about him a lot in our podcast, and we've talked people out of dropping him. But it's just hard because it's people keep on looking at the rebounds are a disappointment. I should agree with most of our followers who are anti Nerlens Noel because of the rebounds. It's kind of low, but I did say that he's averaging almost 1 point something steals and 2 point something blocks. So that
I mean,
you can't find that in the waiver wire, right?
like,
So,
okay, you want to complain about rebounds and why aren't you dropping your Miles Turner, huh? Hater. He doesn't rebound the ball. So why aren't you
yeah,
dropping
it's true.
him?
That's true.
I mean, all right. So I mean, everybody has a complaint, some complaint about some player, etc. I mean, there's no perfect player at the moment, unless except for Nikola Jokic, who is the perfect player.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I would, trade two first rounders for him right now, um,
How
because he's
how
just that good.
how about Kukusevsky? Another
Um,
hot player in the wire where people are asking if
I
it's
like
really
him,
a good
but
pick.
Baisley is, I think,
Oh, yeah.
questionable or probable to come
Yeah.
back, and he's gonna have pressure from Baisley maybe. He's somebody that other people would probably consider as picking up. I saw just yesterday late yesterday or early this morning, people were picking up Baisley already
Yeah,
because the news
because
came
he's I
out that
think
he's
probable
returning
or
soon.
questionable already. He was
Yeah,
upgraded.
so exactly. So he's due to return soon. And as thrilling and as exciting as Poku has been, um Baisley might be pressing him for minutes,
Mhm.
and we have to see what will happen there.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
Baisley hasn't really been as impressive, or maybe has been a little bit of a disappointment as well early in the season. A lot of managers were quite frustrated with him. I think the
But the Thunder
expectation was
don't care.
the bubble Baisley.
They don't care. The Thunder will still give him the minutes. That's the
Yeah,
problem. The Thunder don't care how bad his okay. The Thunder don't care about the volume of shots that he takes and misses, because they just want to let him keep on shooting shots, because the theory there is he will be learning from his mistakes the more time he spends on the floor, the better. You
Yeah.
know, he's learning with real NBA games.
Yeah.
These are opportunities for a player to learn that he cannot get from training camp or from practices, etc. So this
Yeah.
is quote unquote real world development
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
and they want to develop him.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there was a hot, since we're talking about questionable hot players, Keldon Johnson.
Yun.
Oh,
Yeah.
right?
Keldon
That's another
Johnson.
Here,
player
let's. He
who's
is so
controversial
on
in
the.
the.
He's so on the fence right now because he was hot, then he's cold, you know. But where is he now? It's like he's lost, and
Lately, he's been playing
my
better.
short answer is he's not going to be great anymore this season because the biggest twist in his numbers happened post COVID infection. So there was something I think that happened after that, and it maybe affected his conditioning, etc., whatever. But during that period, that the time that there were a lot of Spurs
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
who
Who
were
were out.
forced to miss games. Ever since he came back from that, he was also playing poorly. But he had such a nice stretch. I mean, there was this time that he was like top 50 value, right?
Early
Because,
on, yes,
Yes.
he was a great.
yes, yes,
Very early on.
he was
He
so
had a
hot.
great start. In fact, he
So
was probably picked up in the waiver wire. He wasn't even drafted in most leagues.
Yes.
Most
okay, all right,
standard to
fine.
14. I think we were at least in the leagues that I was in. He was almost available in pretty much all the leagues.
What? No, in my leagues.
Pre the start, pre start, not
What?
pre start
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he was injured, right? He was injured when he started.
Oh yes, all right, yeah, yes. That. But
Okay.
people
Yeah.
wanted to. Yes, because of the injury.
Yeah,
Because of the. But based on expected upside or expected production, he was, you know, people had high hopes post Orlando bubble
yeah,
because of what he was able to do, right? And but now, ah, I mean, okay. Here's an example because the trade deadline of one of my leagues
just
was
fast.
today
Yeah,
or just passed.
yeah,
Yesterday, I got an offer of Keldon Johnson for my Duncan Robinson. Oh, that's an example of somebody wanting to offload his Keldon, despite the Spurs having a reasonably good
playoff
fantasy
schedule.
playoff schedule, right?
Yeah,
And he
Yeah.
and yet he preferred my Duncan Robinson. So that's a ballpark of the guy's valuation in the sense that despite schedule, he thinks Duncan Robinson is going to help his team better than Keldon Johnson.
yeah.
So
That's
I
another.
kind of agreed and I kind of declined. No, I didn't I declined.
I kind of
So I
believe
kept my
Keldon
Duncan
doesn't have.
Robinson.
Duncan Robinson has the elite stat at least 3-pointers. Keldon, I don't know, maybe rebounds, but he's not even that elite there. He doesn't steal or block as much already right now, right? So
Yes,
that could be
the
a
drop
problem.
in the counting stats hurt him the most.
Yeah.
And there was a time that he was shooting terribly also. During those
Mm.
times that he actually went on a slump. That there was this almost 2 week period that he was
Yeah,
scoring in the single digits, but he was
Yep.
like taking 12 attempts and making only three shots. It was terrible. So yeah, I mean, in the end, the guards to own there is like Derek White is
Yep.
the way to go.
And a lot of fantasy managers as well are
Hate Derek.
iffy on Derek White, especially early in the season when he was out. Like
They
they didn't want to
Okay, when he
believe
was
that
out,
Derek White
when he was out,
a-
yeah, fine, but
even when he was
even
playing
even when he
already,
came,
when he
even
was
when he
playing,
came back.
a lot of our listeners are like, Derek White sucks. Derek White this. We want to drop Derek White. And again, we kept on, trying to
We were saying that
tell them.
Derek White is one of the best point guards when you need the blocks or the steals because he
Steals.
not
Yeah,
not a lot of point guards gives you blocks, right? And
no.
yeah, probably he's just not that sexy player as well that people want to own.
He was he was hot. I mean, I know so many players, fantasy managers who wanted Derek White. So I don't know what the thing is.
He
And that
struggled. He
and that
struggled.
was the biggest one of the bigger problems that happened this season. And it's something that I intend to cash in on next season, is because uh a lot of people went through a lot of ups and downs with their emotions this year, right?
Yes, true.
Yes,
And
true.
what's gonna happen is those emotions which were triggered and I guess maybe burned into the memories of a lot of managers are based off situational causes. Like a guy got COVID, or a
Yeah.
guy got injured too
Injured.
long, or
Yeah.
he didn't recover too quickly from his COVID bout. It took
Yeah.
him too long. For example, Carl Anthony Towns missed so much time. I don't like him as a top 5 pick anymore.
Yep.
Or this guy,
Uh,
struggled early. I don't,
Jimmy Butler
all
is
of
one
that.
another player who started really slow.
Oh, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, because he was
Yes,
injured,
yes.
right? And then he got COVID, and then that's another. It's like a shorter time frame than Carl Anthony Towns, but he was being sold for very low value when he was injured,
Yes, yes. So
right?
I only saw I only in the many leagues I've been playing, I saw him transacted or traded once. He was a straight swap for LeBron
At
before
least that was
pre LeBron
quite
injury.
close. Yeah,
So
that was
that was a fair trade both ways,
yeah.
because it but Butler's obviously doing
Another player,
now.
I guess, is Nurkic, who's really frustrated a lot of his owners. Uh, I'm not even sure if Nurkic can get back to that early round type of game.
I was given this question today, like Nurkic or Mobamba. They wanted to drop Nurkic for Mobamba. Yeah, I to
That's
be
how
honest,
low it has gotten for Nurkic.
but
Wow.
but uh, it was hard. I mean, that's hard to answer because like Nurkic will be out again tomorrow. He's gonna be rested again.
Yes, yes, he is.
So I kind of said, if it works for you, I guess it'll be okay.
That's what you answered. That's what you
I,
answered.
I said Nurkic, so I did say Nurkic, but I would understand because right now there's fighting for playoff position and Bamba is playing very well and has more minutes right now.
Bamba is playing very well. Bamba is
Better,
playing better than Wendell Carter
better.
Jr.
Yeah, yeah.
So so I guess yeah, Nurkic is probably that one player that frustrated a lot of owners, and right now is really still frustrating some owners. But let's look as well on the another set of players. If you need point guards, Cole Anthony, Killian Hayes, or Theo Maledon.
Cole Anthony, not close. No, 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 no. Even both of those other two guys together, plus FA pick. No, Cole Anthony. I'm Cole Anthony all the way, all the way.
Okay.
I think, okay, first of all, listen, what is his injury? It was fractured ribs. It's not legs, it's not
Yeah, yeah,
knees, it's not wrist. So
yeah,
he's going to shoot the way he shot. He's going to run the way he ran. It's just that he couldn't take contact. And that was the problem. So he's
yep.
going to play really well. And he was already playing well before,
Before, yeah,
yes, before that injury. And he's going to get back to that. And if you're the Orlando Magic, you're going to be very excited about your future, with the backcourt of Cole Anthony and Markel Fultz. That's
yep,
your backcourt, your future backcourt. And you're hoping your center will be, a combination of Wendell Carter, and Bamba. Then you have, Jonathan Isaac as
yeah.
um
Another player
your
that they,
PF, and Chuma as your SF. That Chuma was a very pleasant surprise. He's one of the biggest surprises. I have a fantasy crush on his game. It's very good. Jishawn Tate is
another,
another
yeah,
great surprise. Um, he's not that big a name as far as rookies go, but his fantasy game is very good.
I think he's top 80. I think right now, with definitely top 100 easy. Jay
Yes.
Sean Tate. So Cole Anthony there. Between the McDaniels brothers, who are also hot topics right now, Jalen and Jaden. Do you think Jalen can keep it up with the Hornets?
I don't know. It depends if you trust their coach.
He
I
did.
don't
He played starter again, but like I
again.
said, it was against the bench of the Milwaukee Bucks, and the first game was against the G League
So can you really
OKC.
count that game?
Yeah, that's why. That's why
It's not
it's quite
fair.
hard,
Eh,
right?
again, sample size is poor in the sense that he's only started so many games, but
Just
he's
two
played very
games. I
well.
think three games or a little.
Exactly, and technically you have to put an asterisk on tonight's game because of the opposition, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd go with the Wolves McDaniels.
Mhm.
Um, he's actually, if you filter for his, I think 1 month or even 2 weeks value, it's still very good. He's
Yeah.
another example of somebody who does not score a lot, but he has
Yeah.
good field goal, good free throw. He'll give you steals, blocks,
Blocks.
so and so rebounds, and she shoots threes.
Yeah.
He's like uh uh a lower version of Rashid Wallace that could be better,
Mhm.
the way his stat set
Yeah. Yeah.
is right
And the
now.
way he plays.
And the Wolves are really committed already to him as the power forward going, for the rest of the season. They want to develop him alongside Carl Anthony Towns. Even though you'll see the random Jake Layman game, yeah, just ignore him. Okay, that's one thing a lot of managers have to learn. Don't There's some guys who will show up for 1 or 2 games and just drop off.
Yeah.
Like, for example, now everybody picking up Reggie Jackson just because Patrick
get
Two good
Beverley is going to be.
games.
So,
3 good games.
but I've been playing this fantasy for so long that I've learned not to touch Reggie Jackson anymore. I mean,
There are
look
players that do not get type of players.
yeah,
You
yeah.
should have a list of those players that have burned you over the years and probably won't get them or draft them
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, yeah. I mean, people should learn to stay away. Like, are either of you picking up Kevin Love next season?
We
Jeremy.
no.
Kevin Love,
No.
drafting him? Are you
We,
drafting
we
Kevin
have
Love?
we have a current
No?
bet. How many more games would Kevin Love play for the rest of the season? What's your
5?
See, there are 21
I
games
think
left,
I think
and
I'm I'm
Jeremy said
I'm gonna lose
Kevin
that
Love will
bet.
play in 16 more games out of the 21.
I'm
That
saying
means you
5.
miss 5 more games. Just 5 games.
Yeah.
See,
What?
that's an easy bet for me. He's not gonna play 16 out of the 21 games left.
Who said 16?
Me.
What the
Jeremy,
hell?
Jeremy said 16. He believes Kevin Love will play 16 of the 21
But-
remaining games.
My
I
next
won't-
question is, how much was the bet and how can I get in on
No.
this action?
Just-
You can get in. You can still get in.
Okay. No. The Cavs have no incentive to play him.
Yes.
First of all right, there's no point in. I mean, they should actually do an Al Horford on him and say that he won't be playing the rest of the season, because they're a team. The situation of the Cavs is a lot similar to the Thunder, in the sense that they should be focusing all their energy on their younger players.
Yep.
You know, everybody didn't know who the hell this D Wade was. Everybody thought, hey, why is Dwayne Wade still on the pool?
Yes.
He's retired already.
White
Right?
Dwayne Wade.
Who the hell is this?
A white
But no, Dean Wade is actually playable now, and he's a white dude who actually does things. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's another player who doesn't score much, but he's an under the radar producer. I mean, don't knock him, because look at what he's been doing in the past month or 2 weeks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Especially with Larry Nance getting the perpetual illness issue, whatever the hell. I don't
What's
know.
wrong?
I don't know what the hell is wrong with Larry Nance. Okay,
But Dean Wade is another not sexy choice for a lot of fantasy managers.
And yet I picked him up just for like tomorrow's game or something like that because I'm expecting maybe a block or a steal or a three at solid. You know, he's amazing in the sense that he's better than so many pickups that are out there.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So I want to build it. I want to build a team of not sexy picks, and it'll probably win.
Led by Tobias.
It will win.
I can't pick him up in the
Wait, who's a first rounder that's really Kawhi? Kawhi is the not sexy pick in the first round.
Well,
would you agree?
Yes, obviously, because people didn't expect him to play back-to-backs, and now he's suddenly playing.
He still has this stereotype that he would be load managed every season, so I think that's why he's really. So I think that would be the number one pick in the not sexy pick. And maybe the second round would be Paul George.
Paul George. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to resist Zach LaVine next season. Would you?
Zach LaVine's been really good.
All right. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if some managers pick him late first round.
See, so Zach LaVine is my second round pick of choice next season.
Another not sexy pick is Nikola Vucevic.
I've always been a fan of Vuce, so I don't know. If he reaches me within the top 25, I don't pass.
Yeah.
I don't pass.
Definitely.
That was my strategy this year. I got the non-sexy picks. I got Vuce. I got Richaun Holmes actually fell to me at 90-something.
Oh, God. Congrats.
Yeah.
Are you winning?
My leagues.
Are you winning?
Yes. I'm number one in the
He's killing it in every league.
I that was my strategy. I was getting Chris Middleton at the 40-something pick. I got Richaun at the 90-something pick because Chris Middleton. That's another player, I guess, not sexy pick, but I like him also because he's always healthy. So
Kamish, you're Kamish of that league. Kamish, is that why they call you Kamish? So Kamish, invite, huh?
Sure.
Invite. So that somebody will take your not sexy picks away from you.
No.
When someone stop you from getting away with murder.
Jeremy's part of that league. You didn't get those.
No, I'm bad at that league. Really bad. Tough luck. I had AD, lots of injuries as well in that league, but was able to swing AD for, I think, Gobert. Right when he got injured, so it's not a bad deal. Yeah.
I mean that was actually pretty good already. I mean,
yep.
In I've only seen one AD transaction where he was traded. Somebody traded Holmes for AD. That's kind. I mean, early in the injury, that was fair because Holmes is like baby AD if you think about it.
Yeah,
to a certain extent.
AD light.
Yeah, without the assists and far less threes, but
and far less scoring. Anyway, thank you, Eric. Thank you for joining us once again. It was another great conversation and very engaging as well. And hopefully you win that lone league that you are currently within leading.
Yes.
You're leading it, right? You're leading it right now.
I am leading it. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yes, at least there's that's the icing or the silver lining of a really what can you say, disappointing season for you.
Yes,
is it
silver lining in the sense? Yes, but I guess that's the one advantage of spreading my investments across multiple leagues. I'm hedged. I might lose. I'm losing 11, but I'm winning this one, and I'm getting over $1,000 if I win it. So that's a good enough payday for my blood, sweat, and tears, right? So, cheers. I mean, it was a good effort. So it has its pros and cons. The mini leagues.
Yeah. yeah, one is getting to add certain players, and then by the time that you mentioned that as well, the last time you came, and I've been experiencing that as well, being too late in adding certain players because it was the last league I checked on. So anyway, thanks Eric for joining us. Hopefully we get to invite you once more
Sure.
later on
I'd love to be back.
at
Thank
the
you.
end of the season, siguro, and we'll, or maybe before the season ends. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this conversation with Erik Ong of hoopball.com, and we'll see you again tomorrow for a regular Daily Fantasy Quickie. Bye, guys.
Bye.